Cell and its environment is a very important topic in biology. So, in this video, it's very important that we discuss about osmosis and diffusion. Okay, so when you talk about cell and its environment, the two major things you talk about is osmosis and diffusion. But for today, we're going to deal on only diffusion. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen right now. All right, here's a PowerPoint there. Okay, share. Back. Okay, in here. All right. So diffusion is very important in biology because it's a topic that most teacher teach, and some people find it very difficult to understand the concept. Okay. So when talking about diffusion, there are a lot of things that comes into play that come into mind. So for example, if you go into your room, just for example, you're staying in a living house, in a house where people cook nice meal, the fried fish, fried chicken, and all that. You discover that you may tend towards specific kind of smell that come from a far distance. Okay, so the question is, how come can somebody be in the kitchen cooking and you discover that you can actually perceive it from a far distance? So there's kind of phenomenon that actually makes this to occur. Now, they still on that scenario, for example, why can someone spray perfume in one corner of a room and yet after a few minutes everyone can smell it? Okay, so why does something like this occur? Why is it possible? Now, I will spray a perfume right now, and all my friends in the room we start to compliment me that this perfume smells so nice. What do you do? How possible? How did this occur? How possible is this? How does this perfume move from here and be able to spread out in the whole room and able to also perceive it? Okay, so the answer is diffusion. Diffusion. So because of diffusion, when you spray something, a perfume right now, it can easily will diffuse and spread all over the room, and people around the room can easily perceive the smell of that perfume. Okay. So the most important thing we need to talk about right now is what is this diffusion? How do we define it? So before I give you a clear definition, a scientific definition of diffusion, I just want to give you an analogy of what this diffusion is all about. So, for example, in a classroom, now this yellow blocks here all represent the students. So, for example, these students are in the classroom, they're receiving the lecture. So you get to a point when it's break time. Okay. So during break time, what happens? The student will tend towards to move. So when they move around the classroom, what happens? They tend towards to spread around everywhere. And this is how what molecules tend towards to move and diffuse from one place to another. Okay, that's why when you spray a perf right now, it tends towards the molecules tend to spread around the room for everybody, which is far from here, who can easily what perceive the scent coming out from the perfume. So this is just an analogy of what this diffusion is all about. So in definition, diffusion is the movement of particles from a region where they are in high concentration. So high concentration is that particular place where you spray it. So here, if I spray it in my shade, because I spray at this point, the concentration here is higher. So you move from a high concentration here to a lower concentration. Now when it starts spreading, so you now move to an area where it was less concentrated until it is evenly what distributed all over the room. Okay, so these are moving particles from a region where they are in high concentration to a region where they are in low concentration until they become evenly what distributed. Okay, so this is the scientific or definition of diffusion. All right, so this is just a picture that just explain what I'm talking about. So this point here contains high amounts of molecules. So what happened? This here is what is highly concentrated. So from this region, it tends to diffuse all over. So from when it diffuse, it changed from this stage to this point where it become evenly distributed all over the container. So this is just an analogy or illustration of what diffusion is all about. Okay, so this is just an activities just to fill out the blank spaces. So diffusion is a movement of what from a region where they are in dash concentration to a region where they are in dash concentration until they are become evenly dash. So you can pause the video at this point and just put the correct answer there. Okay, so the correct answer is diffusion is the movement of particles from a region where they are in high concentration to a region where they are in low concentration until they become evenly what distributed. Okay, so these just to test you to know if you really understand what the definition is all about. Okay, so there's an activity. So if perfume is sprayed in one corner of the room, where is the concentration highest? So here you have near the perfume, at the door, or also the classroom. So the answer is what? Near the perfume, because this is where the concentration is very high. As it's sprayed, the scent become high, very high. You perceive more of the scent at this point before it now starts to spread to different parts of the room. Okay, so that is that. So now I want to give some everyday example of diffusion. So what happens? How do we use diffusion in our everyday life? So the first one is when you spray a perf, what happens? It tends to diffuse all over the room. So the next one, for example, we are cooking a meal. What happens? The flavor that comes from meal can easily diffuse around the room or around the house, where somebody in the room can perceive what is coming out from whatever you're cooking in the kitchen. So another good example is when you spray what insecticides. You spray insecticides, you can easily perceive the scent from the insecticide when we are very far from where it is being sprayed. Okay, so the next one here is what your tea bags. So when you put your tea bags in a hot, for example, in a hot water, when you put it takes some time. It takes to diffuse. You can see that these tea bags have obtained the whole color of the water, which was colorless initially. So this is a good example of diffusion. Okay, so which of these is diffusion? A, water flowing through a pipe, smell of perfume spreading, a person walking, and a moving car. So without being told, the smell of perfume spreading. Okay, so that can factors that can increase the rate of diffusion. Okay, so the first thing here is what high temperature. So particles tend to move faster. Okay, it tends to move faster when the temperature is very high. So, for example, you see this sugar. When you put sugar in hot tea, what happens? It tends to dissolve faster. It tends to dissolve faster when you put the sugar in a cold tea. Okay, so here's one good example of how high temperature tend to increase the rate of diffusion. So greater concentration difference is another example. So the larger the difference of this concentration, the faster diffusion tends to occur. Okay, so for example, you open a perfume, if a perfume that have a very strong smell, it can easily spread out very, very fast, and people from afar can easily perceive it. But a perfume that is less concentrated, the smell may tend to this the smell may not reach a very large distance because of what the level of concentration the perfume has. Okay, that's why when you have some perfume, you see that when you walk around, even when somebody have not seen you, they can easily perceive it from a far distance. They know that this person is coming because they know that you're the person that normally spray that kind of perfume. Okay, so when the concentration is very high, it can easily spread out, and people from large distance can easily perceive that perfume. Okay, so small particle size. So, for example, small particles like oxygen, carbon dioxide can easily move very fast, easily, unlike particle size is very large. Okay, so the next one is large surface area. So, for example, like your alveoli, use your alveoli. So your alveoli, which is found in the lungs, tend towards to diffuse. It tend to make a diffusion to occur very fast, to increase the rate towards diffusion, because the alveoli are very thin in nature, so gases can easily pass through it very fast and go to where they can easily help in respiration and for help for gaseous exchange. Okay, so that's one part. And again, shorter distance. So, for example, if we stand very close, for example, if we stand very close to a person that spray a perfume, for example, You can easily perceive it. You can easily perceive the perfume, unlike when you're standing in a longer distance. So it takes a long time before these particles can easily diffuse in a very long distance. So people who are very close to the person that spread the perfume can easily perceive the scents that come out of it. So the shorter the distance, the faster the particles tend to move. This is why the walls of the alveoli and capillaries are extremely thin, so that they can easily so that the gases can easily pass through it very, very fast. But if the alveoli is very wide, it takes a long time to easily diffuse past each of the spaces. But when it's very thin, the gases can easily pass it very fast. For example, let me say a smaller pipe and a larger pipe. A smaller pipe, if when you put water in a smaller pipe, the water tends to move very fast in fast speed. But with a larger pipe, the water have to fill in the available spaces so it can easily pass through it. So that's just kind of an analogy to explain what this means. Okay, so which factor will not increase diffusion? So A will have high temperature, you have large surface area, you have long distance, you have higher constitutional difference. So here is long distance. So the longer the distance, the level of diffusion tend to be decreased, because it takes a whole deal of strength for you to be able to diffuse in a far distance. So shorter distance, it tends to move very fast, but longer distance, it tends to be decreased. Okay, so which will diffuse faster? A perfume in a hot room and a perfume in a cold room. Now, I told you before that high temperature tends to diffuse, it tends to increase the rate of diffusion. So perfume in a hot room tend to diffuse faster. Okay, so diffusion in living things. So like for the human lungs, so oxygen tends to move from the alveoli into the blood. So it helps for gaseous exchange. And carbon dioxide moves from the blood into the lungs. Okay, so the help of gaseous exchange for respiration is one very important aspect of diffusion in living organisms. Okay, for example, in plant leaves, we have what we call stomata. Stomata is found in the leaves, and they also help for gaseous exchange. Okay, so carbon dioxide enters the leaves and oxygen leaves the leaves. So during photosynthesis, plants using carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, while oxygen is being given out as a byproduct. So this gaseous exchange are called in the leaf through a structure called a stomata helps in this diffusion process. Okay, so cells receive oxygen, because our cells tend to receive oxygen, and cells also release carbon dioxide, and everything happens by diffusion. So in general, it just gases exchange. Okay, so fishes in water, so they use oxygen, and this oxygen moves from water into the blood through the gills. And don't forget they use gills for respiration. So these are the gills. Okay, so this is just the importance of diffusion. So just to go through importance of diffusion in general, what diffusion helps to do is the first thing is they help in exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. And again, they help in the absorption of digested food into the blood. And again, they help to remove waste products like carbon dioxide during respiration. And for plants during the day, they remove oxygen during photosynthesis. Okay, and they help in photosynthesis. So diffusion help in gas exchange, like taking carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen during photosynthesis. And during respiration, we're taking oxygen, we're giving dioxide. It's just all centered about gaseous exchange. All right, and distribution of useful substances between the cells. Okay, so just a active question, fill in the gap. So the diffusion allows dash to move from the alveolar in the lungs into the blood. So it allows oxygen. Okay. So the next one, in green plants, dash enters the leaf through the stomata by diffusion for photosynthesis. The answer is carbon dioxide. And the tiny openings through which carbon dioxide enters and oxygen tend to leave the leaves are called. So in the leaves, you have a tiny structure called the stomata. All right. Then the tiny air sacs in lungs where oxygen diffuses into the blood, they're called it's very important because when dealing with diffusion, so one important thing we need to take into consideration is an experiment to demonstrate diffusion. So this is potassium permanganate, and there's a crystal here. Okay. And all you need to do is what? To put this potassium permanganate into a beaker. So, for example, this is just a beaker, all right, and this represents water. So, all you need to do is just to put your potassium permanganate here, and there's the color. The color is purple. The purple in the color. So, once you put it into the beaker filled with water, what you're going to experience is that you see that this potassium permanganate tends to diffuse all over the water, and the water will become purple in color. Okay, so when it diffuses, this shows that diffusion results occur. So observation, the color spread throughout the water to bring about to us the diffusion process. So this is a very good example of what I'm talking about. Okay, the potassium permanganate was put inside. What happens? It spread up and take the whole shape of the container, and everything become what? Purple in color. Very good. So just to go through some common mistakes that students make. Okay. Now, some students say that particles move because they want to. No, they move because they are in constant random motion. And the next mistake that students actually make is one, they say diffusion occurs only in gases, but that's not true. It occurs in gas, liquid, and even within living tissues. And again, they say that diffusion requires energy, and diffusion is, and all you need to know is that it doesn't actually require energy. It's a passive process that do not require energy. All right, so it's very, very important. It's very important for one to understand this what settings. So now, so that is just kind of overview of diffusion. So diffusion is a very straightforward topic in biology. Just explain how molecules move from a region where they're highly concentrated to a region where they are less concentrated until they become evenly distributed all over the container. Okay, so it's just a very straightforward topic. So all you need to know is that you need to know the definition of diffusion. You need to understand the experiment using potassium permanganate. That when you add it into a water filled beaker, it gives you some time. It will tend to diffuse all over the container and take the color of the whole container, become what? Purple in color. Okay, so you need to know about the importance of diffusion generally. You need to know the how you use diffusion in our daily life, like a perfume, perceiving from the kitchen. Someone's cooking a nice meal, you understand, or maybe spraying a insecticide within the house. You need to understand that the importance of diffusion in living things for gaseous exchange, during respiration, photosynthesis, and all that. So all these are the things you need to know. Once you understand all these things in diffusion, then you're good to go. Okay. So I'm going to end this video here. This is all I have to teach you about diffusion. So in my next video, I'm going to teach you about osmosis. So osmosis have some kind of interesting elements which we're going to discuss together. So I'm going to see you next time, and thank you for watching my video.